I worked for the Secret Service for 24 years. It was a great career. Florida's for retirees. You just go to the retire and die. But then Uvalde happened. Everything went wrong. 40 police officers in the hallway just standing there. Meanwhile, this gunman was inside a classroom killing children. You had parents that were screaming at the police officers, if you're not going in, I'm going to go in and get my child. After that happened, I was so angry, I decided to write this book. And the book is called The First 5 Minutes. In those 5 minutes, you're in the school, you're on your own. Yes, the good guys are coming. They're coming. It is like being struck by lightning. More than likely, it's never going to happen here. But there's plenty of schools out there that said the same thing. Sandy Hook, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. Oh, it's never going to happen here. It may not. Why not be prepared? Well, wait a minute. Who cares about what gender you are? What happened to math and science and English? What the hell happened here? Black Lives Matter movement, defund the police movement. When we went through the pandemic, students lost 2 years of teaching. Just gone. All you have to do is you turn your lights off, close your blinds, sit the children on the floor away from the windows. The good guys are coming. That's it. Trying to throw things at a gunman, it's mind-blowing, and people accept this. Are you kidding me?
Hi folks, and on today's show I am joined by Daniel Dluzneski, who is a school safety professional. He'll be talking to us about his book and also his work in keeping students and schools safe under some very difficult circumstances. Daniel, thank you for coming onto the show and welcome.
Ted, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm here in the United States, obviously, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is worldwide. The media here in the United States really doesn't focus on how this is a worldwide problem. Maybe it's not as, I want to say, as often as in other countries as it is here, but you do hear every once in a while about Japan or South America or Europe, Eastern Europe, where these things happen. I'm sure it's happened in Russia also, but again, it's something that is not broadcast as much by the media here. Maybe not so much over in the UK also. I don't know. I don't follow much about the BBC or anything like that, but I'm sure when it does happen, because, I really don't want to talk about gun control. You probably know that. It's something here it's too politically, it's just too political to talk about that. But I believe in your country, it's something that's not as much as an issue. It's just something. Here in America, that's the way it's always been. It's part of our Second Amendment, and it's just something that's never going to go away. But again, that's something, different subject, not something that I like to discuss because it really doesn't have much to do with school safety, even though our media picks up on it constantly.
Yeah.
Our media is very progressive, picks up on, if we didn't have guns, then we wouldn't have this issue. Well, as we've seen, and again, I'm not trying to go off topic, but as we've seen, if there's no guns, they'll use something else. Yeah. They'll use, bombs. They'll use edged weapons, knives. They'll use vehicles, anything else to create havoc and chaos and, go after, which is just it's mind-boggling how many years ago this wasn't even thought of killing children. It just is. It's just beyond something that is insane. It's happening much too often. It's something that when I got into it, after I worked, just my background, we can quickly run through that. I worked for the Secret Service for 24 years up in Washington, D.C. I started right at the President Reagan's term, and I finished up with President Obama's term. I was fortunate enough to stay in D.C. the entire time, and it was a great career. I was in a unit that was a uniformed officer, and that unit also has a specialized unit. So I was fortunate I was able to get into the K-9 bomb detection team. I had a crime scene search technician's certification. I worked in public affairs. I worked as a regular street police officer. I worked at the White House where I gave tours. It was a great career. And when I left there, I moved down here to Florida. I was just going to retire. That's it. Sit on the beach, and that was it. Well, as a type A personality, that lasted about 3 months, and okay, you got to do something. And our local school district here, the way it runs here in Florida, it's a county system. And our county school system had an opening for someone in emergency management. I thought it fit my resume. I applied and got in. And not realizing, even once I moved down here, my thought process was, Florida's for retirees. You just go to the retire and die. My county is a very dense county. I've got over 100,000 students in 140 schools. So it was just an eye-opening experience. And the other thing that was kind of eye-opening was that I was put in this position alone. I had no staff, no secretary, no assistant, nothing, dealing with 100,000 students in these 140 schools, trying to figure out how to keep them safe. And it was a very slow process. Everything was methodical. I didn't have autonomy. I did have to go through different levels of superintendents and assistant superintendents and school boards and all this kind of stuff. So it was, I worked there for 4 years. And yes, I did thankfully get to accomplish a lot of things. And I thought the great thing that I like to do is I hated being behind a desk. I wanted to be out there at the schools. So every time they would run a drill, I wanted to be there physically. So I observed or supervised or actually ran over 100 of these drills at different schools, from high school, middle school, and our elementary schools. And it was a great learning experience for me and for the schools. And it was just something that I had a child. My son now is a senior in high school. So, I had input into it. I had something, my passion was there because I wanted to keep him safe also. So once I left there, and I left there back in 2013, I just started a consulting business. And then, that kind of worked out, didn't sort of work out. But then Uvalde happened. And if your audience doesn't know, Uvalde is a small elementary school in Texas, a very rural community. Mm-hmm. And what happened there was, it just was, everything went wrong that possibly could go wrong in that kind of situation. The media blamed the police, which rightfully so. That's what came out about the police just stood by, 40 police officers in the hallway just standing there waiting for orders to do something. Meanwhile, this gunman was inside a classroom killing children.
And this is where you had parents being restrained,
exactly,
and stopped from going into the school.
Yes, you had parents that were screaming at the police officers, "If you're not going in, I'm going to go in and get my child." You had the children themselves dialing 911, saying, "Please come and save us." So it was just a complete disaster. They just came out. In fact, a few days ago, our Department of Justice came out with a 600-page report that explained, in detail what happened, how it happened, why it happened. And it wasn't just the police. Everything from beginning to end just was a disaster. They had doors that were unlocked. They had broken locks. They had a security guard who, wherever he went that day, disappeared. It just was a disaster. Anyway, after that happened, I was so angry, I decided to write this book. And the book is called The First 5 Minutes. And the reason it's called The First 5 Minutes because our FBI has done research and data that shows, on average, most of your school shootings last between 3 to 5 minutes. So that's what I call it that. And the reason for that was, in those 5 minutes, you're in the school, you're on your own. Yes, the good guys are coming. They're coming. I mean, they're going to come and help you. And I like to point out, we had a shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know how many months ago it was now. And they did a video of that. And that, to me, was basically the perfect example of the police response and the school's response. That school, as soon as they found out that there was a shooter busting through the front door windows, they locked down. And there's video of that shooter coming through, checking those doors. Lock, they move on. Lock, move on. Lock, move on. Open, they're going in. Mm-hmm. So they did exactly the right thing. And then when the police arrived, there was a video of the officer there, to me, just calmly, just going through the motions, talking to people, getting his weapon, getting set, going inside, and the communication, perfect. It went right down the line and took the shooter out. But I like to point that out as one of the perfect examples of how to deal with this kind of thing. However, the whole reason I wrote the book was before the police get there, I tried to enhance what I would call not confidence for the teachers and students and administrators of what to do when this does happen. And Ted, it is like being struck by lightning. More than likely, it's never going to happen here. But there's plenty of schools out there that said the same thing. Sandy Hook, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. Oh, it's never going to happen here. It may not. Why not be prepared? It's okay to be prepared. It's all right. The problem is, and I don't know about your school system over there, but our school system here, when we went through the pandemic, students lost 2 years of teaching, just gone. Then according with the pandemic, we had the Black Lives Matter movement, defund the police movement. So this right down the line, and then as we found out, when parents were homeschooling, they found out what was being taught. And that also rose them up going, wait a minute, who cares about what gender you are? What happened to math and science and English? What the hell happened here? So it just flipped everything. And now here we are back in school, trying to catch up and trying to tell administrators and principals, hey, you got to do these safety things. And they're like, wait a minute, I'll give you 5 minutes, but I've got to catch up 2 years here. So it's this real dynamic. And here, educators and police is kind of like oil and water, don't really get along. So it's a struggle. And that's why I put out the book. It's 77 pages. You can read it in an hour and a half. I wanted a guidebook. I did not want a 200 or 300 page diatribe education speak where it's going to sit on a shelf, collect dust, and it's boring. I wanted something simple, quickly you can read it. Here's what you need to do. So we'll go back to here's what you need to do. I encouraged, and I finally got through, that during class time, those classroom doors should be locked. All during class time. Now, teachers will complain, oh my gosh, the kid's got to get a pass. He wants to go to the bathroom. They go to this. I got to get up and unlock the door. Tough. If that door is locked, you're already one step ahead if something bad does happen. When something bad does happen, door's already locked. All you have to do is you turn your lights off, close your blinds, sit the children on the floor away from the windows, silence your phone, don't listen to any alarms. The good guys are coming. That's it. However, what's been happening recently, and I don't know if this is happening in your country, a lot of people in administrations, and when you get new political people in there and new school boards or new whatever, well, we've been doing lockdowns for 30 years, since Columbine, even before that. That's an old way of looking at things because you're passive and you're sitting ducks. Yeah. The children are sitting ducks, sitting in that classroom. Oh my gosh, we have to do something different. So they came up with this system, and I'm sure your audience has heard about it. Maybe you haven't. It's called Run, Hide, Fight. And Run, Hide, Fight was created by our Department of Homeland Security, and they put out a video of it about 20 years ago. And it's a pretty good video, but it's made for the corporate world, the business world. It's made for adults. It shows a video of this bad guy dressed all in black, and he's got a gun, and he comes in, and the narrative and the announcer goes, if you can run, make sure you run to a safe place, call 911. If you can't, then you hide. And last resort, if you have to fight for your life, you're going to fight. Somehow, this got transferred over to schools. Worst thing that could possibly happen. I mean, absolute worst thing. And these administrators are accepting it. Oh, well, instead of sitting passively in a room waiting to be shot, we're going to try to run. Or if not, then we will hide. But if we have to, we may fight. So you're thinking to yourself, I got a 7-year-old in school. He sure as hell's not going to fight somebody, that's for sure. And I'm not sure if I want them running out of the classroom to where. I don't get it. So they said, all right, we'll stay with that. However, what they did was a lot of former law enforcement people said, well, we'll kind of tweak that. There's something out there called Alice. And Alice is a company that's run by a former law enforcement person, but it's as far as I know, it's worldwide. And Alice is an acronym, and it stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. Kind of hard to remember all this stuff. Anyway, it's a training that anyone can go and be certified for 2 days. So it's called Train the Trainer. I'm be certified to go there for 2 days. Now I go and talk to whoever, teachers, principals, administrators.
Yeah.
Well, educators love this stuff because it gives you empowerment, and they feel like, oh, I feel empowered. I don't feel like I have to sit there and wait to be killed. I feel empowered. They love it. Well, okay, the first 2 parts are pretty cool. Alert. Yes, I need to be alerted if there's something bad happening in my school, whether it's through the PA system, a walkie-talkie, whatever it is. I'm alerted that there's something bad happening. Terrific. The second one, L, is lockdown. Terrific. Yes, lockdown. That's what you're supposed to do. The third part of the Alice is ALI, is inform. In this part, someone, a designated person, is supposed to inform the remainder of the building, meaning, let's say if the bad guy comes into your building and someone sees that bad guy. Oh, well, I better inform everybody else what's going on. So I'm going to go on the PA system and look at my cameras and say the individual's in hallway B, is on floor 2, is in hallway C. That's what's supposed to happen. I don't know about your country. Here in the United States, we don't have that kind of system. We don't have a system where cameras follow people. We may have cameras set up in certain hallways, but you can't tell where you may see them at first. They're in hallway B, but after that, I don't know where the heck they went. There's no system out there yet. Yeah, if you pay millions of dollars, you may have some kind of camera system that can follow a motion through a school. Schools don't have that kind of budget. The C is called counter. So instead of they got away from that kind of, well, we're not going to fight the person, but we'll counter. We'll change the wording counter. So what they want to do, Ted, and to me, it's kind of laughable. They want teachers and students to be able to precisely throw an object at the gunman at the same time. Okay? So here's a classroom. Okay. You've got 25 or 30 kids in it sitting at a desk. The gunman somehow gets into the classroom, and the students and teacher are supposed to throw pencils or books or an iPad, anything they can grab, and throw precisely at the gunman to counter, I don't know.
I was just about to say to you, what, you mean they're all supposed to throw pencils at the guy?
Yeah.
As some sort of absurd example. But that's basically what they're saying. Anything they can find to hand in a classroom situation and throw it.
Yes. Instead of fighting the individual, we're going to throw things at them, and that will somehow force them to drop the weapon. Or to me, that's going to, I'm sorry, piss somebody off. I'm just going to start shooting all over the place. So it's very frustrating. But administrators, and schools have accepted this training. Gone through it. They feel better. Oh my gosh, I can do something. I can inform. I can counter. Oh my God. So, but you think of it as a parent. And most of my podcasts now, I try to direct towards parents because teachers, if a lot of teachers here, they have to listen to what the principal says, what the administration says. This is what you're doing. We want you to do this. All right, well, I don't want to get fired, so I guess I'll do that. But if I'm a parent, I sure as hell don't want my 7, 8-year-old, I don't even want my 16-year-old in a classroom trying to throw things at a gunman during something that's so emotional, so terrifying, and you're going to precisely throw it. And you know how much training they get? Maybe an hour and a half, Ted. So do you think an exceptional athlete is going to figure something out and throw a ball at a target? Or I know in England, like dart throwers. Hey, a dart thrower, I'm going to teach you how to throw at a dartboard, and you're going to precisely hit that target after I give you an hour and a half of training. And then you know what? You're going to sit down over here for 6 months. And then one day it was going to find out we're going to hand you that dart and say, go ahead and hit that target.
Mm.
Are you kidding me? It's just mind-blowing that, and people accept this. And if I'm a parent, I'm like, there is no way I'm going to have my child in a classroom and you're going to tell me he's going to throw things at a gunman. It's just absolutely ridiculous. You're not going to teach someone in an hour and a half to precisely throw something at that moment. I mean, even if you're a superior athlete that can throw something precisely, you're in such a panic and terrifying state that this is happening. It's not going to happen. But they've done it. They've done it where they've asked students, you know what? Hey, bring a can of soup to school. Bring a golf ball. Bring something and put it in your desk just in case this happens so we can throw it at somebody. I'm like, and this is accepted. No one's thinking like, this is ludicrous. What are you talking about? And I've got a company here. It's called Safe Havens International. And they're, again, worldwide organization, been in business for 30 years. They're the ones who have done the research and the data. And they've said some of these teachers and principals have taken it so far, Ted, that they've had people that have showed up, I say people, students that have showed up at school with a weapon. Not with the intent of just shooting everybody, but either they bring the weapon because they've been bullied, maybe it's a gang-related thing, maybe it's something they feel safe with, maybe they're suicidal. But what happens when someone brings a gun in, immediately it clicks in their head. The training they've had in Alice is to inform and to confront the individual. I've got to go and stop this individual from shooting up the school. Well, maybe that's not what that individual needs. Maybe they're just afraid. Maybe they're suicidal. And there's been documented research done where you've had these individuals go out. Look, let's go back to Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook was an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut, where my sister actually lives. The principal came out and confronted the shooter. Boom. Okay, that person's dead. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Parkland, we had a gym teacher there, confronted the shooter. Boom, they're dead. Okay, just recently in Iowa, we just had a recent one in Iowa 2 weeks ago, where you had the principal who was critically injured, but again found out later after he died, oh yeah, he went out and confronted the shooter. It's like, what are these people thinking? I don't get it. You're not carrying a weapon. Do you think you're going to talk them down? They're beyond that. You should have talked to them months ago when they were being bullied or had signs that there was something wrong mentally. You're going to talk to them now that they come into school? Their mind's already made up. They're 10 steps ahead of you already. Either they're going to be shot, suicide by cop, or they're going to kill themselves or possibly give up. I mean, we had only Cruz gave up in Parkland, but I don't know why he did that. They're way beyond being talked down to and giving up. It's beyond that. So this idea that somehow I'm going to be a hero and confront or talk down this person and save lives. No, I don't know if they save lives or not, but they're dead. Now you have a father, fatherless widow. You have children that are fatherless. Here they're calling these people heroes. Yeah. They're not. It's the wrong message to send, because now you're going to have students or people out there with that mindset going, I could be a hero too. I'll stop this and save 50 people from getting killed. No, stop this. So
what's your, sorry to interrupt, but what's your thoughts on where schools have trialed this and they've had teachers being armed?
That subject's come up now and then, and at first, let's do it common sense wise. If a teacher is armed and something happens in that school and the police are arriving, unless that teacher quickly throws on some kind of orange vest or something that identifies them as a good guy, if I'm law enforcement coming in and I see a gun, I'm going to shoot you. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're the shooter or not. How would I know? I don't know who. I don't know you. I see a gun. You're the shooter as far as I'm concerned. So that's the first concern. Secondly, the second concern is if you're a teacher that's been trained in that and have a weapon, don't you think the students are going to find out eventually you have that weapon? They're going to find out eventually that you have it. Rumors, kids, you can't hide anything from kids. They're going to know you have that weapon. So if you've got a student with bad intent, as far as I know, I don't think that there are states that are allowing this. I don't think that teachers are actually carrying the weapons on them. A lot of them will have them in a locked desk drawer or a locked safe. students are going to know. They're going to find out. If they want to get to that weapon, they can get to it. So, no, I disagree. However, I will back that up by saying we had our county police chief, who now the law enforcement has taken over safety and security here, and I disagreed with that. That's the reason that I quit. He said our county will allow the teachers to go through training in order to carry the weapon. Now, in one respect, I liked it, because if the press picks up on that and says, oh my gosh, this county is saying that teachers can be allowed to go through training to carry a weapon. That doesn't mean they're carrying them. They're going to be allowed to carry them. So it's just a perception. I like the idea of the perception. If I'm a bad guy and I'm saying, I'm going to go to this county school and shoot up the school, or, should I go to this other county that says the teachers aren't armed? It's almost like over here we have burglar companies called ADT and stuff, and people will put signs out in front of their house saying we have a burglar system. I don't know if they have one or not. They got the sign. So will I go to the house that has a sign, or the one that doesn't? I'm a bad guy. I'm not going to go there and take the chance. I'll go next door and rob them. So it's kind of the perception that, that county says teachers potentially could be armed. Okay, I'll avoid that county and go somewhere else. So that I agreed with the perception itself. The actual, if they actually do it, the actual basis of it in real time, if they say, okay, we're going to have teachers go through this amount of training, and we'll talk to the press, and we've had 100 teachers go through it, and blah, blah, blah. That hasn't happened. I think people with little smarts will say, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. I disagree. Although in Utah, I think in parts of Texas, they are allowing it, and so far so good. They're the statistics I'm sure will come out, but right now, the one thing about this, Ted, there's not a lot of data on this stuff. There's not a lot of data on states that have open carry laws, states that don't. Areas that have only lockdowns for schools, and areas that use this ALICE system. There's not a lot of data out there. The one thing I can tell you about this ALICE system is that the liability and the legality behind it is not good. There have been suits against this program.
It does seem on the face of it to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. I mean, unfortunately, these incidents are far too common. But because they are still quite an exceptional thing, based on very exceptional circumstances with very exceptional people involved. I don't mean exceptional in a good way, obviously. I mean exceptional in a very, very bad way.
Yes.
But then that makes it very difficult to put together data to have anything, reliable or concrete to work on. But I think there's certainly an element of common sense that would make anybody think, well, if I walk into a school and I don't know if teachers or staff members may be armed, might not be armed, don't know. It's not a matter of them routinely being armed, but knowing that they could be,
yes,
that's going to deter the bad guy. And
yes.
the bad guy, what seems to be the case is the bad guy in the majority of these cases, they're not special forces operators. They're not Mossad. They're a dysfunctional youth.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. And the other thing to mention is that I would say the majority, I want to say probably 75%, might be higher than that. Most of these shooters are either current students or they're former students. And they plan these things way in advance, months in advance. There's all kinds of diatribes on their social media, on their writings. All this stuff is planned ahead. It's not like one day they woke up and said, I'm going to grab my gun and go in and shoot up a school. These things are planned months in advance. And yes, that's a good point. Common sense wise. And the nice thing, I said a nice thing. The good thing here is that in my state, and I hope other states also will budget for it, is to have armed school resource officers in the school. So at least then now, on the other side of it, if I'm that shooter, who am I going to take out first? I'm going to take that school resource officer out first. Then I got free reign in the school. I got at least 3 to 5 minutes, maybe longer before the police arrive. Yeah. But it's still a deterrent. It's still going to slow them down. And the one thing is, Ted, that I can say that just from experience, we're never going to be 100% preventative. You can't. I can't tell a school, look, 100% safe, your kids are good. It's never going to happen. However, if you have layers of security that slows that shooter down, so it gives time for police to get there, that's what you want. You want at least 6-foot fencing. You want lobby areas that are enclosed and will trap them. And then you want the locked classroom doors. So at least to slow them down enough that it gives time. And that's why I say, well, people will say, well, if they have locked classroom doors, they'll just shoot the lockout. Ted, it's only happened once. It has happened once in the history of all these school shootings, because even though they're insane, they're not stupid. They know it takes too long to shoot a lockout of a door. They're looking for open doors, open glass, anything to get into that classroom. So they're not going to stand there and try to shoot out a lock.
You've got to have the right kind of weapon to be able to do that anyway. Yeah. You've got to have the right type of ammunition. It beggars belief that, whenever shootings occur, or interactions with the police go badly and a shooting occurs, there's always people who come along and say, well, hang on a minute, why didn't they just shoot the gun out of the perpetrator's hand? Why did they have to shoot them, in the chest? Why couldn't they just nip them on the ankle or something like that? Lots of people come along with a sort of half-baked ideas about, what reality is based on probably a TV show or more likely a cartoon that they've watched.
Too many movies. Exactly. Yeah. No, that doesn't happen. No, I was trained that way, and that actually helped. My training in Secret Service actually helped. The thing of it is, try to, with this Alice training, this run, hide, fight, trying to make teachers and students into some kind of paramilitary force in an hour and a half. It's not going to happen. Ted, I've had meetings with teachers. There'll be a 3-day conference. In my county, it's every year. There's a 3-day teachers conference. You come in, and 3 days just of intense education stuff. Of those 3 days, you know how much time I got for safety and security? I got 45 minutes. That's it. And in 45 minutes, I'm trying to throw everything I can out there because I don't know when I'm going to see them next. I may try to visit the school and get a few minutes, but it just became that kind of thing where I would ask the principal, can I get, 10 minutes a day and just try? But I was only one person. I wish I had a staff member to go out at these schools and talk to them almost every day and say, hey, just a reminder. Keep your classroom door closed. Or just a reminder, when you leave an open classroom, don't leave it open. Close it behind you. I mean, all these little things. I would have, especially high schools, I would have band rooms where they'd go in and you'd hear this music. It's great music. I said, well, how do you get notified if there's a shooter in the building? Would you hear the alarm? He goes, no, we can't hear anything. All we're hearing is music. So, and I had the same thing with chorus rooms, the same thing with gymnasiums, the same thing with cafeterias. I'm sure you've gone into a school cafeteria in high school. It is loud. I mean, it's incredibly loud. You can't hear anything. So it's just like, have you thought about that? Because if I'm a shooter, and let me tell you, they observe this stuff. They know the drills. They know which doors are open. They know what's going on. Where are they going to go? Look at Columbine. They went to the cafeteria because you cannot hear that announcement. And for the life of me, I try to figure out a light system, anything to try to get them to, be alarmed and to hear what's going on. So that was a frustrating part of it. But besides that's a niche thing. That's something that, I worried about it, but it was like, all right, I got to think about the rest of the school, not just one particular classroom. Yeah. So the reason that, again, that I encourage the book, and I'm not here to sell the book. I don't go on podcasts to sell the book. It's more about the message and awareness. You want to buy the book? Great, that's fine. It'll help you out. It's a guidebook. like I said, it's 77 pages long. It doesn't take you that long. But in that, I mentioned about implicit memory. And it's something that the military talks about, athletes talk about, in Secret Service, we talked about it. Implicit memory is basically doing something where you don't even think about it. To tie a tie, put on a seatbelt, all these little things that you do without really even thinking. When you get up in the morning, you're reaching for your phone. I mean, it's something you do. So I try to get it across to teachers that have the confidence to know what to do. And if you don't, what I did was, and I can show it to you, but your audience isn't going to see. It's a little card. It's a credit card size card, like that. And every teacher and every organization here has a lanyard with their ID on it, or their copier card, because they'll have to use a copier, and just attach it. And on it, it's a quick reference card. And I have on here suspicious persons, threatening weather, fire, lockdown, lockout. Because I tell you, Ted, I went through 9/11 at the White House, and I had the training. But if you're a teacher in there and something happens, Ted, your mind, no one knows how they're going to react. Yeah. No one has any idea of how they're going to react during an emergency. Whether it's a plane crash, car crash, a shooting, whatever, you don't know how you're going to react. So when this happens, you're going through your head, okay, lockdown. Okay, I got to lock the door, do the blinds. Children sit down. Your mind goes blank. So the card just says what you need to do. That's it. Did I forget something? Oh, I forgot to close the blinds. Oh my gosh. So it's just something and I found out that doctors use these in emergency rooms with these colors. Because I talked to a doctor and she said, oh yeah, we got those all the time. She says, they'll throw out a color that hasn't been used in months, like purple. What the heck is purple? And they got to look it up. So it's just something easy and simple that to reference, because you're literally going to go blank. And I got plenty of stories, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I've got one story. There's a county that's north of us, and it was a middle school that went into lockdown. The assistant principal there was a wife of a gentleman I worked with. And she said, across the street from us, there was an individual who didn't like his mom's boyfriend. So he decided, well, I'm gonna kill this guy. He grabbed himself a rifle. Now he's outside, and he's starting to shoot up the house. Well, he was just so dysfunctional, he started spraying around the neighborhood, and across the street was a school. So the school rightfully goes into a lockdown, okay? Mm-hmm. The police come, they capture the individual, nobody was hurt, everything's okay. Afterwards, whether you do a drill or the real thing, you always do what's called an after-action report. You get together with your staff and you do an after-action report. This assistant principal found out, and she had been running drills for months with her staff. 1/3 of her teachers froze. Didn't do anything. They froze. Mm. And they had been through different drills. But they found out during the real one, they froze. Yeah. So you don't know. You really don't know. So I try to get through whatever training I'm going through with implicit memory. Here's what you need to do, and repeat it over and over and over. Yes, the argument is, can you overtrain? Sure, you can. You got to figure out a balance. Look at your audience. Is it too much? Are they going blank on you? Are they like, get it? I can't remember all this stuff. So that's why you try to make it simple as possible and repeat it over and over so that it kicks in. Ted, fire drills. We've been doing fire drills. I'm sure you do it over in England. For hundreds of years, we've been doing fire drills. Everybody knows about a fire drill. When's the last time a kid died in a fire? It's been hundreds of years. So you could do a fire drill blindfolded. Alarm goes off. You walk out you've done the exit hundreds of times. You go out, you wait for the alarm to come back in, you're in. You could do it blindfolded, So the same thing for me. I know it takes a long time. The same thing goes for a lockdown. You know what to do. You go through the process. The good guys are coming. So this idea of what they call, Ted, options-based training. Instead of locking down, we're going to give teachers the option to do something else. So common sense-wise, you say to yourself, okay, so now you're putting the liability on teachers. So here I am, a teacher, and I hear gunfire, and we go into a lockdown, and you're saying to yourself, well, they gave me the option of leaving and running out of the school. I heard gunfire over there. Okay, kids, come on, we're going to run out this exit here. I don't know if there's another gunman. I didn't see the gunman. I heard shots. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, the high school, that had 3 different floors. They had gone through a drill 1 month prior. So they were ready. So when the actual event happened, number 1, they thought it was another drill. Number 2, the fire alarm went off. They had not trained for that. And the third thing was they didn't know what to do. It's a fire alarm. Should we leave? Should we stay? Lockdown? We don't know. More than one teacher heard gunshots and said, come on, kids, we're out of here. We're going the opposite direction. What they were hearing, Ted, was echoes of the gunshots. They actually were going towards the gunman. This idea of running out of a classroom, it's mind-boggling to me, because you don't know what's out there. You don't know. Why are you leaving a perfectly safe, locked classroom to run out into the hallway to what you don't know? You don't know. You don't know what you're going to face.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing that I try to do on these podcasts, is tell people, look, lockdowns have worked. It's endorsed by a psychologist association, the National Association of School Resource Officers. It works. Don't do these other knee-jerk reactions because it's something different.
Yeah, and these well, the thing is, when it comes to the drills that you've said, like you say, everybody's capable of doing. Everybody's capable of learning. Now, yeah, if you've got a live situation and you've got a shooter, and you've got teachers and you've got students, and sometimes very young ones as well, there's going to be a mass panic, and there is only going to be a certain percentage. Who knows what that percentage is? A certain percentage of the teachers who are able to deal with that situation when it arises. But they need to be given the best possible training and the best possible, ideas of what to do. Like the cards, the aid memoir. I mean, that's the sort of thing that you see in a lot of different scenarios. And it just helps, it's like pre-flight checks.
Yes.
Pilots have the cards and they tell them what they need to do, and it just helps them along. But there's always going to be people that will panic when it comes to that sort of situation. Why wouldn't they?
Yes.
But yeah, it's interesting because when you talked about that scenario where something happened and there was a fire alarm as well, that's when this is when people haven't really thought out, okay, what do we do in that kind of situation? Because nobody's sat down and thought, okay, this could happen and this could happen. What are all the risks? What are all the things that could have happened? I mean, nobody's perfect, but of course, if you've got a fire alarm, the fire alarm tells everyone get out and get over to the other side of the yard or whatever it may be. And in a lockdown, you want to be doing the absolute opposite.
Yes, and I tell them in a lockdown, that's a good point, that if a fire alarm does go off, pause. Yep. Open the door. If you smell smoke, okay, then we got to get out. If you don't smell anything, close the door and lock down and stay in a lockdown. So that's what, again, you can't train or plan for every scenario. You can't do it. You can do the whataboutism forever. However, once that did happen at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, everyone here was in a panic in my county saying, oh my God, now they're going to pull the fire alarms. What are we going to do? And if you don't smell smoke, don't worry about it. You're okay. Just stay in the lockdown. Don't leave, because you don't think shooters are watching this going, hey, next time, man, I'll pull the fire alarm and everybody will run out and I'll start shooting everybody.
Target-rich environment right there.
Right. And the other thing, like you talked about, is this idea of running out. Well, you know what? We've got schools here with thousands of kids. It's not only one teacher running out with 25 to 30 kids. It's multiple rooms. So what's going to happen? Like you said, they're going to panic at that door and they're just going to pile up, because during drills, I kind of chuckle. During drills, they'll walk. Oh, we're going to walk. We're going to walk outside and everything's fine. Do you think the panic, like you said, is going to set in, just common sense? You were going to run like a maniac. You were going to trample people to get out because you're in such a panic. It's happened in fires, for God's sake, where buildings have been on fire and people just trample each other at an exit when they've got a perfectly good exit behind them. Because where are they going to go, Ted? They're going to go to the exit that they came in on. That's it. They're going to go to that. That's where I'm going. That's where I came in. That's where I'm getting out. Even there might be perfectly two good exits behind them they could have gotten out at. So, and it's just that mindset of we're going to run and everything will be fine. No, everything's not fine. You're going to trample each other. You're going to hear stuff. You're going to see stuff. You're going to step over bodies and you're going to want to help them and stop. No, don't leave the classroom. There's really no reason to leave the classroom at all. And they said, well, what happens if they do try to get in? Well, as a last resort, you've got these heavy desk and file cabinets. Just barricade the door. If it comes to where they're actually trying to bust through that door, which again has never happened because it just takes too long, then barricade the door. They're not getting in. Just keep them out. Yeah. So, no, I encourage and continually emphasize just stay in a lockdown. Don't use this other stuff like run, hide, fight, and Alice. Don't pay any attention to that stuff.
We can do these things, and we can do as much as we possibly can to prepare. But where are we going wrong in the first place? In these, I mean, and as you say, these things tend to be homegrown. Yes. Where are they going wrong? Looking at the sort of profiling of the individuals who commit these acts, where are we going wrong in terms of having these people act this way in the first place?
Well, that's kind of a broad subject matter. I think, again, just in the past few years, even before the pandemic, the mental health services here in the States, I don't know how it is over in your country, have deteriorated. The budgets for them have disappeared. So the homelessness, mental health issues, they just don't get the help that they need. And now the schools, they're being dumped on at these schools. And yes, the good thing is there are what are called threat assessment teams that will meet weekly and talk about different students. And we do encourage students to tell us, hey, Johnny over here is acting kind of strange, or Susan over here was talking about killing somebody. So you're not ratting your students out. You're saving lives by just stepping up and saying, look, they probably need help. Can we talk to them and find out what's going on? And but a lot of times, it's the quiet ones. It's the ones that are not espousing, all this stuff about death and wearing makeup and black and whatever. And it's hard. It's hard to figure. It's hard to target them because, again, over here, civil rights are just at the top of the scale. So you're always afraid of talking to this individual because they'll immediately say, no, I'm a minor. You need to talk to my parents, and lawyers get involved. And it's just, it becomes this civil rights matter where, I've got a suspicion that there might be something wrong with this person. How far do you take it? Now, are you going to start searching their locker? Are you going to start searching their internet, their social media? It takes too long, and it's frustrating because you don't know, and everyone has, well, here's the answer, but no one really has the answer to say this will stop this from happening. So it's just a societal thing, and everyone has their opinion. I have mine, and my opinion really doesn't, it goes more the conservative way of how this country has gotten away from religion. It's gotten away from community spirit, gotten away from family. We've got plenty of single moms or single dad families. We don't have the what they call the family with the mother and the father. We've gotten away from that, and I think it affects these kids. But that's just my opinion. But it just seems like it's gotten worse. I mean, Ted, I grew up in a farming community. We all had guns on the back of our pickups. All drove to school with those guns in the vehicles, fully on display. Would never think. Absolutely, it wouldn't even occur to us to hurt somebody, to take that gun out. And even as mad as we would, and you would have a fist fight after school. Hey, Johnny, I'll meet you out on the grounds there. We'll take care of business. I would never think of grabbing a weapon, even a knife, and doing something like that. You wouldn't think. Nowadays, it's like it's completely turned upside down. It's very bizarre. that this is become a more accepted means of, I don't know. And it's just something, we're not going to figure it out. And it's sad. It's only going to get worse, Ted. It's not something we're going to say, okay, if we do this, it will get better. It's not. And I concentrate on school. We can't make them prison. We can't.
You can't. But do you see some sort of correlation when it comes to these incidents occur largely in schools, and yet that kind of suits the demographic of the perpetrator. But is there an element of, when we're talking about perhaps losing some more conservative values, the family, and so on and so forth, is there a correlation between the willingness to do anything about school shootings in a more robust way, and the fact that schools are predominantly run and staffed by the more progressive side?
Well, one thing I would disagree with you is that it's not just the school shootings. We've had shootings, obviously, you've seen at Walmart, Home Depot, warehouses. We had the Pulse shooting here at a nightclub, at businesses where you've had workers that just had enough, and they used to call it the postal worker that would go off.
Going postal, yeah.
Going postal at businesses. So it's not just schools. I think that's a lot of focus on the media, obviously, because now you're killing children. Bad enough. But yeah, even adults are killing each other. But partly it's that, I think. You do obviously see shootings at college campuses. Mm-hmm. But it's partly that. I don't think that's a mindset that progressives want a safe school or avoiding doing something that makes the schools safer. I don't think that's a political chasm there that's saying, oh no, progressives don't want this to happen and conservatives do. I think it's just, that's just the way it is. But no, I would argue that no, most of the majority of our school systems want to have a safe school. But, and I've seen it here in my county, they will constantly mention about their safety and security procedures and how they deal with it. And there's always that kind of underlying, but we're very nurturing. We care about your children. That message goes out to parents on the website. Here's what we're doing. However, we want to make sure to let you know that we care about your children. We're very nurturing. We have an open atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. And the reason for that is I see that, they want, as a school system, you want to have a welcoming appearance. You have to have that because there's a real balance. I would go in and say, hey, we had an incident where a middle school and a father showed up. He was divorced and he showed up for his child. Well, because there was issues with the divorce, he was not on their list. His name wasn't on there. The countertop was about 4 feet high. So he decided, well, I'm going to get my kid. And he jumped over the counter, attacked one of the staffers, ran into the school and grabbed his kid. Now, nothing happened after that, but all of a sudden the red flags went up going, why are these countertops so low? Yeah. So, okay, I went in and I said, we have to make them at least up to, chest height, 5.5 feet. And we got to bring glass down from the ceiling like a bank and enclose it and close the whole area so someone can't jump over the counter. Well, when we started doing that, Ted, the parents just went ballistic. Oh my God, it's claustrophobic. It feels like a prison. It looks like a bank. I hate this. And at first it is, because you walk in, you're like taken aback going, oh my God, I feel kind of enclosed. I don't like this. But once you explain to them, this keeps not only the staff safe, but it's going to keep your students safe. Now it's become more acceptable. So little by little, yes, schools are allowing this. Even in fact, as long as you say it's for the safety of the staff and it's for the safety of your students, we still care about them. We don't want to make it a prison. But I encourage that most of your lobbies, there's one entrance. I always encourage, and it should be a rule. During school time, you have one entrance into a school, only one. You come in one way, you're forced into the lobby area that's enclosed. At the end of that lobby area is a door, a full-size door. We have, for some reason, back in the 60s, we used to have these half doors. We got rid of that. That door is locked. You cannot get through that door unless a button is pushed that's hidden, or a person has to go over there with their pass and swipe it to allow that person in if they have access. If not, you're out of there. You don't belong. You're not getting in. However, I've found over and over, and I can go today, Ted, there at whatever school, normally high schools, and high schools are notorious for this, there will be an open door somewhere in that school. I'll find it. Because they will use wedges, they will use books, blocks to keep that door open. Why? Because you got teachers that step out for a smoke. You have children that ask for a pizza delivery. You've got kids that are late to school and their buddy's going to let them in. It happens all the time. And don't you think a bad person or a shooter is watching that and knows which one of these doors is wedged open and they're going to get in? It happens all the time. And it's human nature. Why they do it.
That happens everywhere. That'll happen at the back of a police station, won't it?
Exactly. They'll hold the door open. And it drives me crazy, and it's something that's so simple to do. And I encourage these kids, because we do have children here, especially after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, that went out and they were protesting, against gun violence and all this kind of stuff. And I said, look, why don't you guys have committees? Because years ago when I was a kid, we used to have safety committees. You would meet once a week or once a month or whatever you did. And you would go around the school to make sure everything was okay. Back then, you used to look for smokers. Oh my gosh, that was horrible back then. You couldn't smoke. Nowadays, look, if you have ownership in your school, especially middle and high school, go around the building and just see if doors are blocked open. You're not snitching on anybody. Just see if the doors are open. Close the darn door. I mean, it's simple. It's very simple to do. Yeah, even if you have, staff or assistants or school resource officers that do that, why not walk around the school and just make sure everything's okay? It's simple. It's something that gives kids encouragement. If you want to be in the law enforcement or military or whatever, it's something to do. And it's something to keep your school safe. So I encourage that. But, this idea that they don't realize that somebody's always watching them. It just is kind of mind-boggling that they prop these doors open and don't think anything about it. Because again, you still have that mentality that people will say and teachers will say, "Oh, it'll never happen here." That'll never happen here. We're fine. I'm sure everybody said that.
Even if that doesn't happen, something can happen.
Yeah.
Having like you say, having the glass or the perspex up at the front, or making sure the doors are shut, or making sure that you got large, perimeter fences, whatever it may be, that's there protecting all the children from any other issues that might arise, any other kind of safeguarding issues, not just active shooters.
Yes, no, I agree. And the other thing I want to talk about is technology. A lot of people will bring up, well, why don't we get metal detectors? That'll save everybody. We'll get metal detectors. And a lot of school systems will have a grant by the state or the government say, hey, we'll give you X amount of money to put in metal detectors.
Yeah.
Well, okay. A principal or administrator, superintendent will say, hey, parents, we've got metal detectors now. Your kids are safe. Whew, all set. We're good to go. Metal detectors are nothing what they call is a security theater. They look good. They're not going to do anything. If I'm an insane person and I'm hell-bent on getting in that school and shooting it up, do you think a metal detector is going to stop me? No, I'm going to shoot everybody there. I'm just going to keep going. All a metal detector does is make you think that you're safe. You're not really safe, because guess what, Ted? Even if I wanted to get a gun into that school, don't you think I know where that door is propped open? Don't you think I could put it in my backpack and tell my buddy, hey, I'm going to throw it through the window here on the second floor. Could you catch it for me and just hold on to it for me? There's an easy way to get weapons in the school and avoid the metal detectors. These kids are smart. Even when they love the idea, these administrators, I'm going to put cameras in all these locations, so I'm going to know what these kids are doing. It takes these kids these kids are way smarter than us in some respects. They know where every camera is. They know all the hiding places. They know where there's areas they can get away with stuff because nobody can see them. So this idea that cameras are going to save you or metal detector is going to save you, it's false. It's a false sense of security, and you're wasting your money. Your money should be spent on the human factor, because that's what's going to save your kids. Not only the response time, but doing the right thing by locking down and waiting for the good guys to come. This idea that technology is going to save you, it's not going to happen.
One question for you, but before I say that, the thing with CCTV is it's all well and good, but it's very much after the event. So if you're talking about this kind of golden first 5 minutes, where if you're going to do something, you've got to crack on and do it then and there. All you're going to end up, if you've got great CCTV, all you'll end up with is footage for the news networks after the event.
Yes.
It's not going to help you on that day.
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we talked about, this inform part of Alice, where you're supposed to inform somebody of where the shooter is going. That technology doesn't exist, but yes, it does exist. After the fact, they'll have a photo. Oh, there he is. There's the shooter. Oh, there's the police going over there. And that's all you're going to get. And like you said, the media is just going to pick up on that. And that's all they're going to get out of these recordings that are released. So, no, it's good thing about technology. Yes, it's good to have cameras. Absolutely. It's good to have lighting.
Yeah.
It's good to have automatic locks. A lot of the schools, and we have them here, they have a manual button. You push the button and it automatically calls the police. It automatically locks the doors. The doors should already be locked. But it sends out a message, an automated message. We're in a lockdown. Good. I agree with it. As long as you test it and test it more than once, test it enough that it works flawlessly, because I want to stay away from the apps. Stay away from the apps. If you've got something that's physically analog lined and you push the button and it works electronically, perfect. Mm-hmm. But the apps, stay away from, because you never know. Because the Wi-Fi could go down. It doesn't work on LTE. It doesn't work on 5G. It doesn't work on my phone. My battery went dead, whatever. Stay away from that. But if you've got something that's physically there, push the button, sends electronic signal to the police and all that, okay, I've got no problem with that. If you want to spend the money on that, that works. But I've had too often, when I work with the school system, all these companies, and I'm sorry, but I don't know what you call them there, but they're ambulance chasers here, basically looking for ways to make money off of tragedy. Mm-hmm. So I will get emails saying, "Hey, I got an app. It'll come out. It'll save all your schools. It'll do this. It'll do all this whiz bang stuff." And then they come and test it, and it doesn't work. Or it works part-time, but not all the time. Or it works only for certain schools. Or we're in an area where I can't pick up a signal. Oh, my God. So this idea, and it's happened because I think when we first started, I told you about how unregulated this is, where anyone can call themselves an expert. And because there is no licensing. Not necessarily that I want licensing. There are organizations here that are good organizations that will get you certificates if you pay them money, which in some respects, that's another thing where, hey, you give us $500, you take a test, and we give you a certificate put on your wall. Like, does that make you an expert? Not necessarily. I mean, if I can get a degree and pay for that, what does that make me smarter? Not really. Mm-hmm. So this idea that a lot of these companies are marketing towards this, and I'll be going to a conference in July here in Orlando, Florida, one of the biggest, and they'll have exhibitors there that want to sell you stuff, that want to sell you the greatest thing that's going to save all these kids. Maybe not. Do I want to spend all that money on something like this that's not really been tested and that doesn't really work? So it's an unregulated industry, and I really don't want the federal government involved. The Department of Education has put out some stuff, but I want to leave it to the states and more locally, leave it to the local counties to figure out how to deal with this stuff. But they do accept outside private companies that are selling you this whiz bang thing and selling you this widget and selling you that. Mm. And it's tough because you don't know what to trust. You don't know who to trust, really. And I've got two mentors. One is, like I said, Safe Havens International.org. Guy's name is Michael Dorn, been doing this for 30 years. And there's another individual named Kenneth Trump, no relation to the ex-president. He's been doing it for like 40 years. He just got his PhD. Both of these guys talk the talk and walk the walk. I mean, they've been there. They know what they're talking about, and they are very more analytical than I am. I'm more, I guess you'd call it blue collar. I just talk from the heart, and a lot of times I get myself in trouble. But these guys have the smarts, the expertise more so than I do. So I follow them, and they mentor me on what I need to say. And I'm glad they do agree that this technological stuff, these run, hide, fight, and these Alice trainings, they don't work, and they just get people in trouble, and it creates a lot of legal issues and a lot of liability issues.
Yeah, I think I think it's not even a case of having the smarts. It's a case of having A, some critical thinking, and B, some common sense when it comes to these things. Because do you know what? All we've been talking about is really the basics. It's locking down, not leaving the room you're in, making sure you're locked in, making sure that you close the doors. And if somebody's outside shooting, you don't respond to the fire alarm unless you're literally on fire.
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of common sense lacking in a lot of people, and I think that's your biggest task when it comes to trying to get people to respond to things properly.
Yes.
But like you say, it's a very, very heightened environment with a situation that very, very few people will find themselves in.
Yes.
And when they do find themselves in it, you've just got to hope that some training for some of those people that have had some training will kick in, and they'll be able to respond appropriately. You've got the 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes rather, which is your book.
Yes.
And where can people find that?
You can find it on Amazon. It's also on Barnes & Noble, but Amazon is the best place to find it. And once you type in the first 5 minutes, it should come up in your first 5 or 6 searches there. It'll come up. I have a Facebook page also with the first 5 minutes. I'm on LinkedIn under my name. I know my name is kind of difficult, but you should be able to find it. And that's it. I don't have my own website or anything like that. Again, I don't have my own business. I'm not pushing my own business. Again, like I said, the book is a very short book, easy to read. I want it to be a guidebook. And I know we're getting short on time, Ted, but 2 things I want to mention that I always mention on these podcasts, 2 things to remember. Number 1 is keep yourself safe. A lot of times what we've seen is a lot of these teachers and principals will try to confront the shooter and think they're saving lives. No. I've had principals that literally will be in tears, especially elementary school with the little children. They will be in tears because they want to do something. They feel, and they're a type A personality, I'm not going to sit in an office and wait. I can imagine how hard that is to do, to have this feeling that you need to protect your kids, to protect your family at these schools. And they will be in tears telling me, I can't do that. I have to get out there and do something. I said, then you're not going home that day. Keep yourself safe first. And I like to use the metaphor of when you're on an airplane and that oxygen mask drops down, what do they tell you?
Yep.
You put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Now you can help the child. Now you can help the elder person next to you. So you do that. You keep yourself safe first, then you can help others. Secondly, if your budget allows, armed school resource officers. Now, these people go through intense training specifically for schools. They do not have arrest authority. They are armed. They are in uniform. They are an advocate not only for the school, but the parents and the teachers. They are an advocate for that. And there's been, again, with this movement, this defund the police movement that hopefully has started to dissipate. I've had students that push back going, oh, no, we don't want armed officers. They make me feel oppressed. I feel afraid. My cousin was arrested by them. Like, no. Usually it's the parents that come back and say, no, I want these armed resource officers in the schools because that's going to keep your students safe. So those 2 things. Keep yourself safe. Secondly, armed resource officers in your schools that are highly trained. These people are highly trained. I advocate for them all the time, and they're a great resource.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming onto the show and telling us about practically a massive download of everything we could possibly need to know and what to do. And folks, look out for the book, The First 5 Minutes. Thank you very much for coming on.
Ted, thank you. And like I said, keep it simple. Just lock down. If you're in the school, keep it safe. I appreciate your time and your audience. If you have any questions, you can go through Ted and you can get a hold of me. And if you need me back on, if you want to debate with someone or have a panel discussion, I'd appreciate it. It's great.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Ted.
That conversation was recorded on the 22nd of January 2024. My thanks again to Daniel for being on the show, and my thanks to you all for watching and listening. If you've got comments to make, please do get in the comments section below. If you've got more to say, or even if you want to be on the show, you can always DM me at Ted James Media. But until the next time, goodbye.